One. Yo, what is going on, fans, coaches of the ASL? My name is Hutch 0322, and today I have with me.
What's up, guys? I'm Excellent Name, aka EN.
And I am Gran,
All right, so
aka
today,
Birdlike.
as you can see on your screen, we have the ASL Season 5 post-draft rankings. So everyone in the ASL YouTube team all submitted grades for each team. So me, Ian, and Gran are going to be going and addressing each team in detail. And yeah, let's go ahead and start it out. So whoever wants to introduce the first team can go ahead and do so.
Alright, so yeah, first of all, we've got Keister's team here, and Keister has a pretty nice tier A pick, I feel, with Jirachi's at those Megalopony. But it just kind of goes downhill a little bit, I feel. He kind of sloppily tacked on Rain, which I don't think particularly fits the team. He added Porygon Z, which just gives him normal stacking, which I don't think he really needed. And yeah, his Ghost and Ground type is Golurk, which is not a Pokemon you're going to want to be seeing, so he's lost out on two pretty crucial types there. Just like a lot of kind of iffy things with a team that brings it down in the end.
Yeah. I liked his first couple picks, and then I feel like he's way around the draft off. Just kind of, I didn't really feel it. I don't really feel Rain, kind of like he said. Kind of feels out of place to me, but I think he's got a really strong first three. The Zapdos Lopunny Jirachi is amazing, and I think that's probably why I grade him a little higher than the other people. But,
Yeah, I agree with that. Basically his biggest wall breakers are Megalopony and Entei, and having Rain really destroys Entei. It's really hard to hit Sacred Fires very strong, so it kind of just destroys one of his wall breakers, and I don't know why he hasn't traded or tried to trade away Entei at this point.
The other big one is Porygon Z, though, to be fair, with like the
Yeah, that's
adaptability
true. But like
boosted.
physical wall breakers
But
wise,
yeah,
Megalopony and it's just on Megalopony to do the whole thing, which is a little bit interesting. So it's gonna average out to about a B plus or B minus or a C plus for Keister. So whoever wants to introduce the next one.
we got TJ here. His what did you drafted? I guess I like his Mew pick. Mew is a very solid Pokemon. I use it in off season. I love it. But I feel his draft to me is a little bit awkward. I feel his speed is kind of slow, and I don't know. He has to have sticky webs and Rabombe, but I wasn't really feeling the team. I think that it could have been built around more solid around Mew in general, but I do like Savali as a Pokemon. I think it's very good in draft league. But
yeah, the big thing that TJ decided to do was save his last two tier A picks until the very end of the draft, and you're really seeing that that did not pay off. He got the really good Mew, which was like obviously a really nice versatile Pokemon, but then just compared to all the other drafts, his tier A is a lot weaker. He's got two Dragon Dancers that are just so slow, and while he does have webs to support them, the rest of the team honestly doesn't benefit from him because it's just everything on the team is just so slow that they're even under speed through webs, which is really sucky to see. His team is really defensive, but you don't really feel the synergy too well between the picks. So yeah, there's just doesn't fit well together, I don't feel.
Yeah. Honestly, his team loses to Bulky Taunt because his team absolutely needs setup to break through things. He doesn't have any straight wall breakers. Like, he needs Dragon Dance T-Tar, he needs Dragon Dance Como, he needs Curse Snorlax, Quiver Ribombee. He needs setup to be able to truly break through things, which is really, really bad for him because that means he's going to rely on that extra turn that could really set him back momentum-wise.
yeah,
So he's going to average about a C. Go ahead and talk about the third one.
Yep, this is Brad's team, and this is one of my favorite drafts in the league for sure. I think I rated this one the highest out of all of them, an A plus. It really builds well around Coco. You saw with his other two picks, he picked up Pokemon that deal really well with Coco, which is always really good to see. It really lets Coco shine if he doesn't have to deal with those Pokemon. And Coco also really helps out Mamoswine because it gets rid of the bulky waters while Mamoswine can get rid of those annoying ground types. So they just synergize really well. He then backs it up with like some really nice bulk. so he's not really going to have to worry too much about dealing with the big offensive threats at all. He's got kind of everything covered. The one thing I do somewhat feel is that his offense might be a little bit weaker, but he definitely supplements that with Hazard Stack and Toxic Spikes. So he just kind of covers everything, I feel.
Yeah, I really love this draft. I think like you said, he's got pretty much everything on this draft. He's got good wall breakers. He's got good defensive Pokemon. He's got amazing Hazard Stack, and decent Hazard control as well. So, just all around, it's a very solid draft, and there's not really much he missed out in this team.
Yeah, this draft is pretty nice. Easily one of the best. Just the reason that I think it's not. The reason where I think it lacks is it relies too much on Empoleon. It relies too much on Empoleon to set up rocks, because otherwise you're going to have to bring rocks on your Mamoswine. If Mandibuzz has a really poor matchup, it's going to have a hard time defogging. And if there's like a big electric type, which is the reason why you can't bring Empoleon, it's going to be hard to bring Mandibuzz vice versa. So just a little bit of hazard control where I see is a little bit of an issue, but he has very good stackers, fantastic wall breakers, viable scarfers. Basically, you can check everything off the list besides like his hazard control is a little bit shaky in my opinion.
You should note that Xatu, Mandibuzz, and Coco are also all really good ways of dealing with hazards. So I
That is
don't
true. Coco
completely
also
agree
does
with that,
get
but
in terms
it
of
is
like
definitely
bulkier
defense.
ones.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead and introduce Shadow's team.
Alright, so start off really good. I like Celesteela Victini. I think they're very solid Pokemon. Getting both of them on the same team, I think is very good. Also good good wall on Hippowdon, good wall breaker and Swallow, fast electric up and Jolteon. Guess the amazing sticky web and Araquanid in my opinion. I think it's really good this generation. Especially with like water spam. And overall, it's a very solid team. I feel, but lacking any real sort of solid hazard removal is going to hold this team back a lot.
Yeah, I rated this team a lot higher because its cores are really hard to deal with. Celesteela Hippo is definitely a problematic core to break down. Really strong wall breakers in Victini, Swallow, Mega Heracross, supplemented by web support, good pivots and stuff. But the issue is that the team is just completely and utterly destroyed by hazards. It wouldn't have been so bad if their primary wall breakers wasn't all weak to rocks. It's just really hard for the team to get around that issue. And the cores, while they are definitely really solid and cause you to have to think about a lot of different ways to beat them down, usually the answer will be hazards, and he doesn't have any counterplay to that.
Yeah, I really like his team. I probably would have rated it higher if he does have the hazard control, but having Victini, it has to be a first priority that you get hazard removal, and Swallow defogging is not an answer. It's just the best transaction I think he could make is dropping Swallow for Golbat, in my opinion, but it's just he's gonna get completely destroyed by hazards. But if you can look past the hazards, he's got fantastic breakers, pretty good cores in Celesteela Hippo and Araquanid, and then he even ties in the sand with the Stoutland. So I like all the mons he has. I just wish he could remove hazards so people don't see like, oh, I'm just gonna hazard stack and win the game, because hazard stacking is a very easy way to win games.
Yeah.
Go ahead and introduce the next.
I will when the Pokemon pop up for me.
All right. Are they not coming through?
Okay, is this TCPs?
Yes.
Yeah, TCPs. I gotta say, the triple Regicore was definitely funny, but it's not really the best idea, let's be honest. The team's quite fighting weak as a result, and he does have like Decidueye and Espeon and Primarina, I guess, but like those Pokemon aren't really necessarily going to be wanting to take the hits too well. It's not really it's not really that good of a team composition to have all those Regis. He does have some big threats in Tier A, like the Zygarde and Thundurus, so you did see that panning off for him to pick them late. But yeah, for the most part, he's just going to be losing to a fair few type spams by picking up all these Regis. And because of all the Regis, he's kind of just taken up a bunch of slots that could have been placed with Pokemon that would actually synergize a bit better. Other than that, he has filled out most of the things that he needs to do in the team. He's got setup sweepers, he's got breakers, he's got pivots, he's got removal, and some hazard setters. So it's still a solid, well-rounded team. It's just the triple Reggie meme is not the way to go.
Yeah, I rated this team a little lower. I do like the first 4 picks. I think Zygarde and Fernape Thunderous Beedrill is really solid. I think that stuck out for me for this team though was lack of like a wall with reliable recovery. I felt that like and no whiff support as well. I felt that really holds back the draft on the back end, which is something I usually like to see in drafts, and that's why I rated it a little lower. But the first 4 are solid. I think he's got a decent offensive team. It's the lack of the defensive synergy for this team I didn't really like at all. So I rated it a little lower.
Yeah, his offensive core is absolutely fantastic with his first 4 Mons. They just rip through everything. But the problem is he can't take a hit himself. Like you said, having your wall core only 1 Mon, or 2 Mons if you want to count Espeon, having reliable recovery is very hard to do. I think Espeon does get Wish, so he does have Wish support in that sense. But
It's
yeah, I
just
think
not
it does.
good with support.
It's not, because Espeon wants to be offensive most weeks because it's not going to take a physical attack anyways. It's just really difficult. I mean, he has hazard removal in the Decidueye. He has hazards in 2 of his Reggies and in Fernape, so he has options there. It's just, I don't feel like... I felt like he was focusing too much on offensive and really just abused his defensive side of things. Introduce the next one.
Alright, so I'm just waiting for this stuff to load. Alright, so we got AZ's team here. So Heatran Madi is a very solid core. He's a lot in Gen 6. And then also adding Tapu Bulu, I felt that Heatran Bulu with Lati is just a very solid top 3 for A. And overall, just a very solid draft. A lot of solid ball, good wish support in Lucky Lucky, good hazard options with rockers and spikes in Crystal, and just good hazard removal as well with a bunch of defoggers on this team. I just really like the defensive synergy. Really like the offense and Aerodactyl, Bulu, Lottie, potentially Heatran some weeks, and the Ansho. I think overall it's just a really solid team.
Yeah, Bulutran's the tried and true core, and I do know that AZ was talking about being rather disappointed with the draft, but I do not see why. It's just, it fills in everything so well. It's just like the epitome of a strong balance. It's got all the good cores with just phenomenal wish passing. I guess their pivots could be a little bit better. It's only got really the Mean Shao Rotom electric, but that's kind of a minor nitpick. It's definitely filled out pretty much everything you need in a team, so I definitely really like this one.
Yeah, he was just a little salty over being sniped 7 times, but overall I think he got a solid draft at the end. I
Yeah,
think he'll play with this really well.
very good. His first 3 Mons is probably the best first 3 Mon core we have in the entire league. They function so well with each other. While they can all function defensively really well, they can all function offensively really well, which makes a core really versatile. And he's got really good defensive cores along with really good offensive cores. So AZ can really bring any form of a team that he really wants. And like you said, his pivoting is not probably ideal for him. But still, when you're hitting that hard, you don't even need as many pivots because you're just going to Oko something every turn.
And everything just switches in well anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. You can get safe switches without pivoting.
Yeah, he doesn't have glass cannons. Alright, next one.
Just taking a little while to load for me still. Okay, this team's definitely an interesting one. I wasn't a massive fan of Cody's team, but Cody also followed the strategy of saving his tier A's till the end. He opted to just go right for the tier B's to try to get some stronger options there. But in the end, he didn't even really get a particularly stronger tier B comparatively to a lot of other teams. I don't really understand the role that Muck's performing on the team. It doesn't really seem to synergize particularly well with anything. It's just kind of there to be there. I don't like the double fairy core with Slurpuff and Clefable, even though Slurpuff's not really the best fairy in of itself. And his tier A is just a little bit weaker than the typical one. Thunderous Eye and Reuniclus and Clefable are all good Pokemon, but just compared to some of the other powerful picks, he didn't really get anything to that level. Other than that, he has filled out stuff decently well. He's got hazard options, but his removal isn't really the best. It's Cryogonal and like Prankster Defog off of the Incarnate Brothers, and he's got a decent defense core. It's just like it's an underwhelming draft.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of underwhelming for me as well. I feel that I like the Aggron Clefable, Reuniclus. I think that's a very good like defensive core. But I do love Gren. I think Gren in Draft League is amazing. I think it probably should have been tier A in my opinion, but I think that's a very solid tier B. But yeah, I don't really understand the Muck pick either. Slurpuff I think could probably be dropped for a different Pokemon. I don't really see the role it plays, but yeah, overall it's kind of underwhelming. Got
Yeah,
some decent synergy, I guess. But
his draft feels really redundant. You have two Tornadus, or two Weather Brothers, however you want to call it. Reuniclus and Clefable feels pretty redundant. Then you have Greninja and Muck, which feel pretty redundant. I just feel like there's so much more he could have done with this draft. He could have gotten a Dragon type, which would have been so much beneficial. Like drop Slurpuff or something like Muck. You could drop Muck for something else. That isn't a dark type because you already have Greninja, which is arguably the best dark type in Tier B. So I just he has a really good defensive core. Like Clefable Mega Aggron just sounds absolutely filthy. Then you throw Reuniclus in there too, but I don't feel like Reuniclus can really reach its full potential with Trick Room. Like, because Aggron is in a weird position where like base 50 is like you can outspeed things, but you can underspeed things, and it's kind of weird. I would like to see Trick Room from Cody at least a couple times this season because Trick Room Reuniclus is no joke, but his team just feels really redundant, and I could see him making some free agent transactions in the future. All right, next one.
just waiting for it to let.
No problem.
Okay. So we got a motive team here. So we've got Mega Scissor Garchomp, which I think are two amazing Pokemon. Not a huge fan of Darmanitan, but it fills this role as the wall breaker. Slowbro, very nice defensive wall, and we also got a decent pivot electric type in Helos. I like his defensive synergy with the team like Chestnut. Got a Gramble, I guess, pretty decent fairy type, lower tier. Defensive Garchomp is really strong. I don't know. I feel this team, yeah, I think it lacks like a lot of setup I think good setup sweepers. I mean, Scissor's a great setup sweeper, but I'm not a huge fan of Minior. And also has sticky webs as well. But overall, this team is kind of, I guess, average for me. I just don't really see it really being much better than some other teams, but I also don't think it's that bad. I think it covered a lot of the dots in terms of what it offers.
Yeah, well, we were definitely torn on this team, it seems, with some A's and some B's, and I'm just not seeing where the A rankings are coming in. It definitely does fill out some stuff with the Scizor Garchomp core definitely being really nice and all, but like, you've got a really weak Fairy and Granbull, you've got multiple Pokemon that are basically just there to set up spikes, which you really don't want to have redundant roles for that. You've got like an interesting tier A pick in Darmanitan. I don't think it really complements the team as well as he should want it to for a tier A pick. His defensive cores outside of the Scizor Chomp is just like a little bit I feel. I don't know, Slowbro Chestnut's still pretty good, but it just doesn't wow me to put it into an A. I'd like to see what your thoughts are to that gave you an A ranking for it.
Alright, so a lot of people rank this B. This is the draft that I ranked the highest out of all of them, just because his cores are fantastic. Now, I liked his team better when Clefable was there instead of Darmanitan. I think that was a very scary team. I still like it nonetheless. If he had Clefable there, I probably would have given him an A+. But his cores are fantastic. Garchomp and Mega Scizor function so well together, and then you throw Slowbro in there for added support, and it's very, very good. And I'm pretty sure Granbull gets Wish, maybe? No, but I think he gets Heal Bell. Either way, he's got really good pivots in Mega Scizor and Heliolisk. Decent rocks in the Garchomp and the Granbull. And Minior, he has a lot of stacking options, so you might not want rocks every week. But the Chestnut was a really good pick. His defensive core is just really good, and his defensive core can also act as an offensive core, which, like I was saying with AZ's team, that can really make a team shine if you can have a core that can be both offensive and defensive and still put in work both ways. All right, go ahead and introduce your team, Ian.
All right, sure. So the best part about this team is the fact that it has 2 Uber Pokemon on it. That's like obviously going to set it apart from all the other teams. I feel like its tier A is definitely the strongest, just pick wise. You've got one of the most versatile Pokemon in the tier in Landorus. You've got the Deoxys Speed and Mega Kang. While Seismic Toss is banned on it, they're just all such versatile picks, so they can really just glue whatever I want to bring together with it. The Fairy Dragon Steel Core is like not really very good with a Sliggoo and Ninetales. It's not the best, but you've got a really nice pivot core with Landorus, Incineroar, and even Electabuzz. You've got all the hazards available to you to really like complement all of the picks, and even Aurora Veil. So there's definitely a lot of things that you need to watch out for on this team that really makes it quite threatening.
Yeah, I do like this team. I just felt that outside of the 3 first picks that were amazing, but outside of that, I felt the defensive synergy was a little kind of weird. Didn't really have the best ground. I didn't really see the best ground switching outside of Landorus, which it really isn't the best. Only like ground switching you would have, but overall, I think the offense potential of this team is really solid. I think it does have some good defensive options, and it has decent set of options with Auroraville with the Ninetales, which I thought would be really solid. Overall, it's a solid draft, but I feel falls a little bit short of the A for me.
Yep, this is tied for the highest draft that I rated. Its 3 tier A picks are probably the best tier A picks literally possible. Absolutely fantastic tier A draft, but like Grant said, it really falls off after that in my opinion. Hazard control is not the greatest. You have Stealth Rock on Lando, Stealth Rock on Metagross, and then you have T-Spikes with Roserade and Spikes with Roserade. But 3 of those Mons want to be offensive and don't always want to run the hazards. And then in terms of actually removing hazards, you have the Lando, which doesn't like almost ever want to run Defog. And then you have Blastoise, which is a very good spinner, but it's going to be pressured to be brought a lot. And since there are a lot of better Mons than Blastoise, it's going to be hard to incorporate it in a team because you're going to have to give up a lot in doing so. Plus, having 3 Eviolite users isn't the best. You're very knockoff weak. Your best knockoff swap in is Mega Kangaskhan, Incineroar, or Alola Ninetales. Which is definitely not the greatest, but it's just for the sheer firepower of this team. It was hard to keep it out of the A for me. All right, next one.
Alright, just waiting for it to load. Okay, so I drafted Kieran Black. He's got Mega DNC. I really don't like that core, but it is very good offensively. Cresselia is very good defensive Pokemon. Run solid pivot. Ron's on good stealth rocker. Just good defensive Pokemon in general. And then after you also got drafted Lightning, which I think is very good in this generation. I think it's very scary. You probably have to prep for it every week. It's solid, but I don't know. I'm just not feeling, I guess, very weak to Stealth Rock in general. His match bounce in DNC, but outside like Defog Rotom, what else other removal do we have?
Defog Talonflame.
Flame, which isn't the best. I think the removal options could be a lot better on this team, especially with Kieran Black. Yeah, you do have Mega DNC, but most Stealth Rockers can pressure out Mega DNC rather easily. So it's the best Magic Bounce user in that sense. But yeah, I think this was overall just a solid draft. I think it's really good offensively. Has some good defensive Pokemon, but hazard control is really lacking.
Yeah, in hindsight, I'd probably rank it an A minus, in fact, rather than an A. But what really brought it up for me was just how threatening it was offensively. You've got the Kieran Black Mega Diancie core is just such a phenomenal core. You've got two phenomenal setup sweepers in Feraligatr and Linoon. And then if Zorak is played correctly, it's honestly one of the best Pokemon in Tier B, I feel, because it's just such a good option to lure out things and get rid of them. If your Kieran Black is having difficulty against some bulky water or something, you can taunt Toxic it, get rid of it, whatever you want with the Zorak, and they're not expecting it. It definitely requires a lot of play to really work that offensive core to its max potential, but it just has all of that potential with the Zorak. The issue is where it falls off is Malone's obsession with Cresselia has really weakened his defensive core. He just gets absolutely destroyed by Ghost and Dark types, which is obviously some of the prime offensive typings in the format and not what you want to see here.
Yeah, I honestly think that getting Cresselia is the worst option Malone could have ever picked for his tier A. Because, like you said, he's absolutely decimated by Ghost and Dark. And Malone needs to let Cresselia go. He needs to use it, not use it for a season. It is really hindering his drafts. This team has no way to break through steel types outside of Hariyama and Talonflame, which those aren't the most reliable mons, which is a little bit interesting why he got them 11th and 12th, because outside of that, he has absolutely no way to get through steel types except for Palossand, but Palossand not a reliable mon
You're
anyways.
definitely sleeping on Zorak on that one. That's
Zorak
what I'm really
Flamethrower.
Zorak was in the steals and can deal with not the best once again,
To a
but it definitely
degree,
does
it's
the job.
just the stab. The stab is what really kills it. For me, it's just his team is very, very steel weak, and if he plays the Zoroark wrong or doesn't bring Hariyama, doesn't bring Talonflame, I don't know how he gets through a steel type. And it's just he needs to drop Cresselia and add something else to his team. Maybe another fairy type, because Mega Diancie functions well with another defensive fairy, so it doesn't have to be the one taking those dragon type hits or the dark type hits. It's just I don't think Cresselia fits on this team. All right, go ahead and talk about the next one.
All right, once it's finished loading up. Yeah, this is Hutch's team. I feel really, really bad for Hutch. He got sniped 8 times, 6 by the same person. So he was definitely panicking throughout the draft. And even though he definitely was able to keep it up and produce something really solid. It's the first time we're seeing Sha Y, and he's definitely paired it up very well with the Extra Drill to give him the spin support needed. He's got the Hazard Stack to supplement it. The big issue that I'm seeing, though, is that with the powerful wall breakers like Charizard Y and Keldeo, he doesn't really have ways to bring them in safely too often. His pivot options are Fortress and Electivire, neither of which I particularly rate all that highly as pivots. So he's going to have to try to predict to bring them in safely. He also has to worry about the fact that Exadrill isn't really going to want to be spinning all the time, and Fortress is often going to be dying in the first 5 turns because that's what its job is to do. It wants to set up hazards and then it wants to explode. So it's going to be somewhat hard to keep the hazards off the field when having to rely as heavily on Exadrill as he does. But aside from that, he's really got a nice defensive core with the Regenerator, with the Gigalith and stuff. It's just that big issue of his offense that does it for me.
Yeah, I really like this team. I think Excadrill plus Verdway, plus Keldeo plus Zygarde are just very good wall breakers. I think the regen core is very solid with this draft with the Amogus is looking, and I just feel he rounds the draft off really solid. Good hazard options. He has decent removal options as well. I'm pretty sure. Well, he has two rapid spinners, and I think he has a defog on Braviary. Not sure if he has defog or not.
Yeah, it does.
But and also, I love Scrafty as a Pokemon. I think Scrafty fits this team really solidly. And overall, I think this is a really solid draft. And for getting sniped as much as he did, I think he pulled out with a very solid draft. And
All right. So basically, looking at my team, the biggest problem that I can see is pivoting options. I have 3 pivots on the entire thing, being Fortress, Electivire, and Braviary, so that's definitely not the greatest, but my wall breakers are very good, nasty regen core, which often Amoonguss doesn't like to sit in the sun, or in the sand. It loves to sit in the sun, but with Regenerator, I don't even have to run Synthesis, so if I'm not bringing Zard Y and I just want to run like a full sand team, it doesn't matter, I can still bring Amoonguss, and I don't have to worry about clicking Synth because I just have the regen there. So yeah, my hazard options aren't as good as I would have liked them to be. If my draft is how I would have picked it out, I would have Latios or Latias instead of Keldeo. But I'll work with what I can get. Fortress is a decent remover at that. All right, next one.
Alright, so we got a math step here. So, just Megaladios, Manaphy, Cortana, which I think is very solid offensively. I think Manaphy's a solid sweeper. Megaladios as well. Can sweep both specially or physically, which is very solid. And also really a solid dragon type. Cortana, I had mixed feelings, but Cortana did good last season, but I don't think it's really the best Pokemon. I think it's rather easy to prep for, especially if you know it's coming. Um, you just put a lot of prep into it, but it does force a lot of monster and HP fire that really probably would rather run a different move in that slot. Then it's a huge rock weakness with this team. And I'm seeing the best way to remove rocks is what Latios and Hitmontop. It's kind of weak in my opinion, but I do like the offensive team. I think it's got some decent defensive synergy, not the best, but yeah, very rock weak, which is why I rated this a little bit lower.
Yeah, for me, the big issue with the team is how pressured Rotom Heat is going to be in pretty much every single matchup. He focused really heavily on his offense, but didn't really draft all that many ways to deal with the steel types. And this is made even worse by the fact that Kartana isn't a Z user, so therefore it's not going to be able to be relied on to nuke the steel types with like a +2 Titanium or whatever. Therefore, the pressure is really going to be on Rotom to pressure and weaken those steel types for the rest of the team. Manaphy can deal with the steel types, but if you run into a Ferrothorn or something, that's going to be really difficult to deal with. So it's just offense that can't deal with common types is just a real big issue for me.
Yeah.
To look out for.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Rotom is so pressured because if his opponent gets rid of Rotom and gets rid of Hitmontop, he has absolutely no way of getting through steel types unless he's setting up with Manaphy or he's setting up with Kartana or setting up with Megalodius, but that involves setup. If he was Z Kartana, I would say it's not that big of an issue, but it's just Rotom is going to be so pressured considering that he has Wish Pass, I think, in Floette, but that's not that great. That's not that. Oh, he has Umbreon, but he has at least Wish Pass and Umbreon to keep it up, which is nice. But Rotom just does not have a very good HP stat at all, and just okay defense stats. So he's probably gonna make some free agent transactions in the future. It's just I don't see him. I don't see him doing well unless Rotom comes to every single game.
That being said, Kartana better get 10 kills minimum.
At least.
At least.
Alright, so go ahead and introduce the next one.
The unanimously decided worst draft. I have no idea what he was really going for with this draft. I think he was just picking Pokemon he wanted to use. Latios is a nice and versatile pick, and I was thinking, alright, he's going to be drafting well this time. And then he picked round 2 Milotic, and then he picked Meloetta. It's like, I had no clue what he was doing at that point. He's just got so many redundancies. He's got Smeagol, Leaveney, when both of them are only really good for webs. He's picked up a Wailord for some reason. He's got Double Dark and Sneasel, Absol, and neither of them really do all that much differently. He does have some nice hazard stack with the Nihilego, but his removal is just practically non-existent. It's got the Delmise and the Latios, but Latios is rarely going to want to defog. And while I do rank Delmise really highly as a spinner, I'm not sure how often he's going to want to bring that Pokemon to the game. There's just so many issues with the team.
Yeah, no, this team looks like he just put it through a randomizer. I'm really not seeing any of the synergy here. You've got two Sticky Webbers in Smeargle and Levani, two Dark types in Sneasel and Absol that do pretty much the same thing. A lot of solid pick, but team is really awkward. And I think it's just really redundant, as you said.
Yeah, this team is similar to Cody's in the sense that it's really redundant, but Cody's makes a lot more sense. This is really random. Like looking at Latios and Milotic, that's a fine core, that's pretty decent. But then you throw on Heligo and it's like, okay, let's get some physical attackers. Then you go Meloetta and Vikavolt, still have no physical attackers. And to patch that, you get two dark types that virtually do the exact same thing. It just doesn't make sense, and he's been talking about making free transactions, which he honestly desperately needs to make, because this team just does not make sense at all. There is so much better value picks that he can make, and if he doesn't make them, I could very well see him not winning a game. No offense, Cam, but you need some changes to this team. All right. Next one. Or last one.
So
It's waiting for it to load. Okay. So we got a CB team here. Drafted Megaminister and Necrozma Weavile. I love those three picks. Megaminister really bulky, and Necrozma really versatile with all the moves it got this generation. Do a whole bunch of different things. Weavile is a great revenge killer. I can SD sweep as well. I love Klefki for Hazard Stack. A solid Steel Fairy type in my opinion. And just very good. I guess he has very good offensive potential with this team. I feel also as a webs, it's a very team that can really abuse webs as well. I feel does lack a bit in the defensive category, but I think overall it's a solid team.
See, I'd probably say the opposite. I'm actually quite a big fan of his defensive core. The Megavinu, Alamomola, Necrozma is really nice to me. I kind of feel that his breakers aren't the best. He's got Embor, which is about it. Other than that, he kind of needs setup to really be breaking through the teams. He's got webs, which are kind of nice, extra bonus, but it's not like super crucial for his team, which is good to see. You don't want to have it be a crutch. One issue that I do have is that I'm not a fan of only having a steel and fairy as your both for the core, because you're really not doing your job as a steel if you're taking neutral damage to other steel attacks. I feel that's kind of a pretty big deal. I'm also not a big fan of his removal. His removal is literally just Klefki, and that gets blocked by dark types entirely. So you can definitely hazard stack him quite effectively. So that's just going to be a really, really dampen both his offensive and defensive cores.
Yeah, I really like Susie's team from his first three picks. And honestly, Klefki as well. His first four picks are really, really good. Once he got Alamomola, I didn't really like it because Alamomola automatically makes your team passive. But then he picks it up when he gets Haxor's Embor. I'm like, okay, that's good. And then just the rest of the draft, I don't know why he got Raichu. It doesn't really make sense. It's not like he's trying to patch any speed tier, because Tauros is the same speed. Galvantula is close to the same speed, and Weavile's faster anyways. So that pick really doesn't make sense to me. Like you said, maybe pick up Steel type that can resist steals. The Volbeat pick, I am personally a really big fan of Volbeat, but I just don't know if it fits. His breakers are not the greatest. Haxorus and Embor is about it, because Weavile's more of a revenge killer. But Megavenusaur Weavile is fantastic. He really built well around Megavenusaur. I would just like to see him have a couple more breakers. Alright, so with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the ASL Season 5 draft rankings. So this is basically just based on the teams that were drafted. So take no offense to it, coaches, and if you were ranked poorly, prove us wrong. And if you're ranked well, prove us right. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching, and good luck in the upcoming season.
Bye bye.
See ya.